Thanks for joining us on Tandem Radio for a very special segment, By Design, focused on helping you understand how God designed you so that you may be healthy and productive in fulfilling God's purposes in your life for many years to come. Now let's join our host, health expert and public speaker, Dr. James Proodian.
Welcome to the By Design radio program. My name is Dr. James Proodian of Proodian Healthcare and ProodianHealthcare.com, where health literacy is the key to longevity. And as long as God has us on this side of eternity, my show is designed to educate you and your families to feel better, function better, and live as many quality disease-free years as possible. We were picking up from last week. We had a good conversation with respect. We opened up the conversation, and I thought I was going to get into my soda article, which I'm going to do today. And instead, last week, we really spent some time going through some of the man-made sweeteners and additives in our food and what we need to look at when we go shopping, particularly how to read labels and look at some of the things that Bob, or as I call Bob, man has made in this industrial movement to industrialize our food supply. So that last week when we went through those things, hopefully in each show when you hear these things, that we're building a platform. We're right now in a multi-part nutrition series. I have no idea how many weeks this is going to take me. I'm just kind of letting the Lord lead me, and we're going week by week. And with each passing week, we're building a nutritional platform that hopefully you find enjoyable and also one that's practical that you could apply to your lives. Our Bible verse is Luke 1:37, "For with God nothing is impossible." And nothing is impossible when it comes to being better educated with taking care of yourself. So that means how we're going to exercise, how we're going to eat, and how to temper that stress that it could be so woefully impeding to our health. So the shows, and if you go back and look at the archive shows, we're in the 20s right now. We're doing foundational shows and we're doing topical shows. Right now I'm doing a couple of topical shows on soda and nutrition. So let's jump into it. Like I said last week when we were discussing the food additives, the sweeteners, the things to avoid, we had mentioned brominated vegetable oil that's in soda and the high fructose corn syrup that's just saturated our food supply, that our bodies are just not designed, we weren't designed to really understand what these chemical substances are. And these chemical substances, as much as our bodies can process them, there is a downstream effect for many of them. Artificial sweetness like sweet and low, artificial colorings, artificial flavorings, all of this stuff to make the food more sellable, to have a longer shelf life. And when we look at, there was a slide that I saw at a seminar I was at, and you could pull it offline somewhere. It's the top 10, the 10 companies that control the majority of consumer brands. If you just type that into a browser, 10 companies that control the majority of consumer brands. You'll get a slide and you'll see the 10 companies and all of the subsequent companies that they own. And it's really remarkable that we have allowed over the last 100 years or so 10 companies to control our food supply. And this food supply, which is primarily processed, the downstream effect of that is a host of chronic illness. So in one, I'm not exactly sure who shared this with me. I think it was somebody on my team, on the Wellness at Work team, had shared an article with me that was written by the New York Times. It's called The Opinionator. Name of the article is Coke Blinks, and it was done on January 22nd, 2013 by a man by the name of Mark Bittman, B-I-T-T-M-A-N, Bittman, excuse me. And you might want to look it up if you want. He's a columnist at the Times, and he wrote this article, Coke Blinked, that I kind of want to read to you, because a lot of times, you know, if you're in your car right now or listening to me, what actually is going on with soda in this industry? Start off, and this is his words. Once again, Coke has blinked. It famously did so in 1985 when it introduced new Coke, replacing its original formula with one it thought would have greater appeal to the audience. It was wrong. This time it might be right, but it isn't going to be the world's best known brand. It's not going to do the world's best known brand any good. It's hurting from decreased domestic sales and really piles of evidence that soda and other sugar sweetened beverages are not only our biggest source of calories, but also amongst our most harmful. Now, Coke is they struck back and they did this very high-level video which makes you believe that a calorie is a calorie and you don't get, that you get fat basically from eating too many calories, which is true, but that Coke is no worse than other types of calories, and that's just downright false. And that we're all in this together, which is downright ridiculous according to this author. And he's right. Coca-Cola is not part of the solution. It's a major part of the problem. So he continued to write on about just our love and how we feel about our country when we think about, America is like a Chevrolet commercial. You've got the cigarettes in the 50s and 60s and the Coca-Cola eating the burgers and fries. And it's very nostalgic to a lot of people. We all can remember, Mean Joe Green with the Coca-Cola commercial. And it's a big part of the fabric of the way we feel about America. And like he's saying here, as much as we've had Marlboro cigarettes, we look at Marlboros now, hopefully in a very different light than we did 20, 30 years ago. Diseases related to metabolic syndrome surpass those from smoking. So let's repeat that. Diseases related to metabolic syndrome, which is the precursor to type 2 diabetes, surpass those from smoking. And he's saying Coke is becoming a dinosaur, one that should not be replaced by aspartame, laced drinks. They are the problem. We should be consuming water. Water is part of the 5 essentials to life: protein, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, minerals, and water, not Coca-Cola. So, this product that we've fallen in love with and so many people consume as part of their, as their beverage of choice, it's contributing to the metabolic syndrome that is a major cost in lives and a major cost in dollars in our country. So let me continue reading here. There is virtually a consensus that drinking too much soda is bad for you, and it's not hard to understand the evidence. This gentleman asked a doctor, a pediatric endocrinologist at the University of California in San Francisco, and the author of a book called Fat Chance: Beating the Odds Against Sugar, Processed Foods, Obesity, and Disease. And his response is a calorie is not a calorie. Different calories have different metabolic fates inside your body. So those from fructose overwhelm the sugar. Now, I shared with you last show that high fructose corn syrup is the sweetener that's in sugar. It replaced sugar back in the early 80s because it's cheaper. So here's this doctor, this author, saying a calorie is not a calorie, and different calories end up with different metabolic fates inside the body. See, those from those from fructose overwhelm the liver. It forces the pancreas to make more insulin that drives more energy into fat cells. And sugar, follow this, is nothing but a fructose delivery system. So this fructose, high fructose corn syrup, delivers fructose directly into the liver cell, and it forces the pancreas to make more insulin. That's the problem. That's the essential problem with dealing with a product like this. So a calorie is not a calorie. Soda is a fructose delivery system, as tobacco is a nicotine delivery system. So it's not only addictive, but it's also habit forming. So we have to, have people cut back. That's why added sugar, especially in a liquid form, is rapidly becoming a focus of public health officials, scientists, physicians, journalists, parents, and even politicians, as it should be, since we've been yelling about this for so many years. And the ridiculous notion that government has no role in public health is crazy. The government has a direct role in our public health and should be aware of products like this that get peddled and marketed, to our children and to ourselves. I pray for the day that halftime at the Super Bowl at some point is sponsored by the broccoli lobby. That would do us all good, that we get back to the foods that God designed us to eat. So here's a recent poll by the New England Journal of Medicine. in which 68% of nearly 1,300 respondents worldwide favored government regulation of sugar-sweetened beverages. Hey guys, we're not doing a good job doing this one ourselves. The time has come where companies like Coke need to take personal responsibility to knowing that the product that they're offering has a downstream effect and is costing us in dollars and in lives. The metabolic syndrome is not to be taken lightly. I ask you to put that into a browser. You can go to my website. I've written a couple articles on metabolic syndrome. It's also called insulin resistance or syndrome X. And these things that would contribute to obesity, diabetes, high cholesterol, cardiovascular disease, hypertension. So in of itself, this metabolic syndrome is the precursor to type 2 diabetes. And here's the thing about metabolic syndrome. It's reversible. If you act upon it and treat it, we do every day in practice at Natural Healthcare Center, this is a condition that is reversible. And it could start, a simple basic thing that we could start with. It's the avoid use of liquid beverages that contain additives, sweeteners, high fructose corn syrup, and in this case, colas. If we just start there, if we as a nation or as a group of people, as a group of Christians, whatever group we want to consider ourselves, what do we want to look at this? We want to say to ourselves, these are products that man has made and has marketed to us. It is appealing. It's become fabric into our culture, but it doesn't mean that we should be participating in it or participating in it as minimal as possible. I decided to dedicate a whole show to this because it's that essential that this product, liquid beverages that contain all of these additives, they have to be first and foremost in the way you're thinking. And when you go shopping, do not buy them. Don't bring them home. Avoid using them. Once in a while at a party you consume a soda, it's not the end of the world. But it should not be part of a home environment where we're feeding our children. Water is the essential ingredient that God has given us. It makes up 60 to 70% of the human body, and it is essential that we're consuming water throughout our day. Hopefully this show, as very myopic as I am, really focusing on this article that I thought was a very important article to go over with you guys, and you could look it up and look at it yourself. Hopefully it wasn't too myopic, but I did want to spend a show just going through additives and sugary beverages. I'm going to exit this week by asking you to go to drproodian.com and please become a subscriber to my blog so that we can keep the conversation going. I blog every Wednesday, so we do a weekly blog. The education process is so much more than just this one show. Proodian Healthcare is designed to do just that. Have a blessed week, and I'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to By Design with Dr. James Proodian of Proodian Healthcare. To learn more, visit us at tandemradio.com, that's tandemradio.com, or on Facebook. And don't forget to email us with your questions. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, hope you have a healthy week, and we look forward to you joining us next time for more fantastic insights from Dr. James Proodian on By Design, a special production of Tandem Radio.